Hello and welcome back to our channel. Today I want to talk about the process of ending a marriage, and I want to say first off, kudos to you for making a very difficult decision. I trust that you did not come to this decision lightly, so as sad as it may be, and I know that's that's the feeling that a lot of people have. It's sadness is the end of something that was supposed to be a forever arrangement, and sad as that may be, for whatever reason you are where you are, and I congratulate you for making such a difficult decision. So where to start? That's something a lot of people wonder, and you have to understand that everyone's situation is different. So I'm just going to share some pointers with you. Take whatever works for you out of this video, but treat your own situation as what it is. It is unique to your circumstances. So first step is you need to inform the other party. Like, that's literally the first step, and it might sound obvious to you, but it really isn't. For a lot of people, it's such a difficult conversation. They have decided what they want to do, they've made up their minds, and they've essentially checked out of the marriage, but informing the other side is just, it's a conversation they don't want to have. And a lot of times when people come to us and retain our services, that's something that we encourage. I mean, we could always write to the other side to inform them, and in certain situations that might be the appropriate thing to do, right? Especially if you're dealing with a person with an abusive personality, for example, and you want to make sure that you're out of their environment, and safety is a concern. That's fine. But for the vast majority of people that are not dealing with situations involving abuse, I would say that a good first step is to always inform the other party. And in some cases, even before people come to meet with us, there's usually been a prolonged period where people are living separate and apart, right, in the home. So it's almost, it's kind of understood that, well, the marriage is over, but it's still, if for anything, the polite thing to do to inform the other party. So start there. Let them know that's it. Your, the relationship is over, and you want to get the process started. And I'll tell you sort of some of the things that you need to think about in with that process. The other thing, and I would like you to think about, is your date of separation. What is your date of separation? For some people, it's the date you had that big blow-up event, after which, you were never the same again. You moved out of the bedroom. You guys never had dinners together as you used to, whatever the case may be for you. Or it may simply be the date you informed the other party that you've decided you no longer want to continue with the marriage. But I think it's something that you want to put some thought to. The date of marriage can be significant when it comes to calculating your assets and things like that. If you have pensions that are valuable, if you have investments, things like that, your date of separation can be very critical. And of course, if you're trying to go get married to someone else, then the 1 year period of separation obviously would be a factor. But do think about your date of separation as much as possible, and then see if you can pinpoint it to at least a range or a point in time that could help your lawyers give your lawyers something to work with. And then, of course, talk to a lawyer, okay? Ideally, hire a lawyer to assist you in the process, but at the very least, get independent legal advice. And I am so excited because I get to see this happening more and more. The number of people that I have had come to, have a conversation with me just when they start to think about the idea of separating. This is fantastic for them because it allows them plan. They know, you can organize your finances. While ending the marriage is a very emotional decision, the financial consequences they're major. So it's important that you know what you're looking at in terms of financial obligations, even parenting obligations, for example. What would that look like? So to find a lawyer right away, get independent legal advice at the very least, but ideally you want to hire a lawyer so you have someone in your corner, even if you're choosing to negotiate with the other party directly, or if you're going to mediation. If you have someone that's kind of being your well, someone in your corner that understands the legal intricacies of what you're going through. That's just so invaluable. So the other part of it is begin to put together your disclosure, and this is ties back to the date of separation, right? So if you're thinking, well, the date of separation, it was like 3 years ago when we had this huge disagreement and I moved out of the room, and so even though we've lived in the same house, we've essentially just lived as, you know, silent roommates, then the first thought that comes to my mind is you want to go to the banks. First off, for a lot of people, if your date of separation is recent, you might be able to get, you know, bank statements and, you know, maybe even some of your employee pay stubs, things like that, online directly. But for bank statements, I believe for most banks, after about 2 years, you can't get those statements online anymore. So in the example I just gave, where we're talking about a 3-year period, you may need to go to the bank. So go into the banks, and the sooner you do that, the better. Obviously, it's easier for them to get you statements from 3 years ago as opposed to, you know, 6 years ago. The process is somewhat easier. And then if it's obviously past 6-7 years, you might even be entering the territory of impossible to get, right? So you will need, you know, financial disclosure. You know how the saying in real estate, like location, location, location? Well, in family law is disclosure, disclosure, disclosure. It's very important. You're going to need that stuff. So start to put your mind to the accounts that you owned. What assets did you have as of the date of marriage? You know, do you need to go back to find your tax papers? A lot of people, you know, keep documentation at home from that span decades, right? So if you have statements that show, you know, investments you had 20 years ago, well, this is the time to sit back as you reflect and ponder this, you know, the future and the things to come. And, you know, for a lot of people, there's obviously that bit of a mourning period as well. Use that time to organize yourself. Go into your garage or wherever you store your documents. Just search for things that you have in your possession. If there's someone else's possession, if you have maybe, you know, an investment advisor, talk to them to start to put it together. Again, remember bank timelines. Get in there as quickly as possible. Begin to gather like the necessary disclosure that you would need. If you haven't done your tax returns and things like that, this is a good time to start thinking about that. And so when you have that, or while you're doing that, you can begin to negotiate terms with your ex, right? So what does the future look like for you guys? Could it be, you know, if there's a matrimonial home, for example, does one person want to keep it while the other gets bought out? You know, how are the children going to be taken care of, both in terms of financially, and who will have, you know, care of the children? Would it be one parent primarily or both, and things like that? So you need to begin to have these conversations, and that's where, you know, getting independent legal advice from your lawyer would be very helpful, because they would help you, you know, put your mind to some of these things so that you make sure that you negotiate that comprehensive settlement for yourself. And then, you know, depending on how things go, if you're able to successfully negotiate it, fantastic. If you're not and you need to involve a mediator, that's great. Unfortunately, some cases do have to go through the litigation process. There's just no way around that. Then that's something that needs to get started. And so once, I want to pause here to add that when I'm talking about the litigation process, I'm not talking about the divorce, okay? So the court process in terms of going through court to deal with, you know, issues like parenting, support, and property division, that sort of stuff. So these are things that can be negotiated for a lot of people, but in some cases, you just have no choice but to have that litigated. So once all of those things are dealt with, or in some cases at the same time, as a lot of these things could be happening simultaneously, right? So you're figuring out your date of separation, you're putting together your disclosure, you're getting that independent legal advice that you need, and you're negotiating terms with your partner. While all of this is going on, the whole idea is you will end up with this comprehensive separation agreement that outlines, you know, what your obligations are, your rights, how things would flow going forward. Once that's done, then you can apply for the divorce. Or speaking of things happening simultaneously, you could also apply for your divorce any during this process. So along the way, obviously, if the 1 year period has passed where there's no reconciliation, you can apply for your divorce if the other side agrees to it. If not, for a lot of people, if the other side refuses, then you sort of wait and get your separation agreement done. But the whole idea is you negotiate all the terms, you have all your you finalize, and you have every the terms articulated for what the situation would look like going forward in terms of, again, parenting support. Then whatever the details or the intricacies of the circumstances of your case, and then you can apply to the courts just to get your divorce done, and then hopefully that's it. I mean, it's not always it. Things come up, financial circumstances change, so things need to be reviewed. Parenting arrangements may need to be changed, but the whole idea is, at least step one's done. That's all wrapped up and done. And, if you're one of the fortunate few, that's it. You can move forward and enjoy, this next new phase of life. So, by way of summary, what is the process you're looking at if you're looking at ending your marriage? Well, first off, let the other side know these are your intentions. Figure out your date of separation. It might be something you can figure out on your own, and the other side wouldn't take issue with it. Or sometimes it might be a conversation that needs to be had with the other side, but your date of separation is important. Get a lawyer, hire a lawyer, or at the very least, get independent legal advice from a lawyer on an ongoing basis. Gather the necessary documentation that you need, and look into negotiating terms, either directly with the other side if it's appropriate, or get the help of a mediator to assist you, and if necessary, go to court to get the issues settled and sorted out. And after all of that's done, then you can look at applying for your divorce. Now, I want to be careful with saying after all of that is, because it's really, you can get your divorce at any point along the way. Once your date of separation has been determined, you can just apply for your divorce. I want you to be mindful of something when you do that. The first is you want to be sure that you're not taking any steps that can affect the other person's claims. And an example would be maybe benefits, for example, right? So you want to thread a little bit carefully there. But the biggest issue for me is you have to remember that if you apply for a divorce, your limitation period with respect to equalization claims is reduced. So it's generally 6 years from the date of separation or 2 years from the date of a divorce. So if you're going to be applying for your divorce before you have a final settlement on all the other issues, just be mindful that your limitation period for equalization is ticking, and you have a shorter frame of time to deal with that issue. So I hope you found this video helpful. Again, my heart goes out to you, but at the same time, I congratulate you again on making such an important decision. I hope it's the best for you, and I hope going forward, your best days are ahead, and there's fantastic things coming in the future. If you found the information in this video useful, and I trust that you did, please follow us, subscribe to our channel, and do leave me a comment, because I like to look at that sometimes to have an idea of what videos would be most useful and helpful to you in the future. And until next time, it's bye for now.